Don't you hate when somebody disrespects you, but they don't apologize for it, but yet they want to put a cap on how you can disrespect them?
When I say humanity has had me fucked up over these past couple months, I am just. But I quite literally had a friend who told me that there were times like where I might have responded to something that made them felt like I was dismissing their perspective. Whenever they had certain perspectives, I might have responded with, okay, like if that's what you believe, not trying to dismiss what they were saying, but to simply say, we have a difference of beliefs. We're probably not going to see eye to eye on it. It makes no sense for me to go back and forth with you, especially if I explicitly know better or different. I'm not gonna. Most times I don't find it worth arguing with another person. However, when they brought it to my attention, I simply apologized for it because that was not the intention behind my actions. My intentions were to never dismiss another person's experience or make it seem as if what they are saying did not that was not worth anything or did not hold value. And then, in that exact same breath, that person, not even 30 seconds later, went on to say that people need to learn how to stay in their lanes. People need to learn how to keep their opinions to themselves. That it doesn't matter what people say because nothing's going to change at the end of the day. And mind you, this is because I saw a mutual friend of ours because we were all chilling, and one of our friends has a dog, and the dog didn't listen to him, so he pretty much snatched the dog really aggressively by the neck, damn near or basically punched it in the process of snatching him, and then pulled the dog to the cage. So I spoke up about it and said I think that was just not warranted because it was a little bit much. So that's what started that entire conversation that then led to him telling me that I dismissed him. I apologized for unintentionally doing so, and that led to his entire rant about how people need to stay in their lane and be quiet and just mind their business because I spoke up about a dog being harmed. And he even referenced the other night, like where I sat with this woman who got sexually assaulted and tried to be like, do you think you made a difference in her life? And continue to be like, if it was you on the floor and that happened to you, would she have stopped? Would she have stopped? Wouldn't even allow me to speak or voice my perspective, try to force my opinion and my perspective to align with theirs, because I guess they have a very transactional way of viewing things. There have been multiple times where I simply tried sharing the knowledge or the experiences that I had around certain metaphysical concepts as conversations went on, and I was simply silent. Because I mean, if a conversation comes up and we're like, oh, well, nobody can know what happens, when we die, and I quite literally get paid to talk to dead people, then I think that could be grounds for me to open up about my experiences. But I mean, I guess to some people, that's just, a little bit too much. So, in my experience, this is very true. People love to be disrespectful, but also want to place a cap on how you can respond to that disrespect. And I think what really bothers me about these things is that we can have a difference in opinion, we can have a difference in perspective, but it's about at least respecting the other individual. And I don't know, I would never tell somebody that I considered a friend to stay in their lane and that their opinion doesn't matter and that their voice and the experience that they had that led to that voice and that perspective doesn't matter. And that experience helped me understand a little bit more of the concept of how I can't really say that we are all equal in the same way that people would like to say that. Because if you operate from the perspective that your voice or my voice has no weight and that we are all just, supposed to adhere to whatever bullshit that we see and that we don't have any chance to change anything, but I believe that you can change things, that I can change things, that we have value within our perspective, then it would be a big disservice for me to say that we are all equal when you don't even hold yourself to the caliber in which you could. It's likely in circumstances like that that I believe more in you, that I see more in you and your being than you are seeing in yourself or even me. And I'm not going to allow the value in myself to be diminished because you don't value yourself. When I say I speak nothing but life, love, and prosperity into my friends, and I'm not exactly expecting people to do the same. Like I don't expect people to be me. I really, really don't. But I expect you not to be an ass. And what was really telling was, I think it was the next day or the day after, I had a conversation with like two newer people that I met at the bar. And granted, we didn't exactly have the same understanding of the metaphysical realm and stuff like that. But the way that they approached the conversation was like night and day. I was able to actually voice my perspective and actually say what was on my mind, and they were receptive to it. And I'm not saying that anybody has to be receptive to what I'm saying. I don't think you have to believe me or not believe me, but if you are engaging in a conversation with somebody and if you ask somebody to prove a point or to provide evidence, and then you do not allow that person to even speak before you cut them off or try to force what they are saying to fit what your narrow worldview is, that is not a conversation. That is not healthy, and that does not allow room for growth in any capacity because you're not seeking to engage in any meaningful way. You're seeking to dominate the conversation, assert your power over it, and have people know that you don't give a fuck, and essentially your worldview should be, I guess, prevalent over other individuals. And the only thing I can ever say is it gets annoying because it's not exactly like I'm trying to debate a worldview. Am I debating if the light is on right now or that my fan is spinning in the background? There are certain things that are simply black and white and objective. Whether you believe or not within certain things that I speak, it doesn't necessarily matter. It's like you don't have to believe in gravity for it to work. There are certain things that are a practice. There are certain things that are not a belief system. And I think that we have such a convoluted concept of how we approach certain things that it's never going to be as beneficial as people would want it to be. And then on top of it, to then say the evidence I can provide is not enough, doesn't matter, or is irrelevant when it's quite literally the biggest way to quantify the information I'm trying to give you, then that's like trying to measure the contents of the ocean by taking a picture of it. It's just not something that you can do. So to then try and force that to be a reality in which it can happen, that's just not going to work out for the benefit of anybody when trying to relay certain concepts. But I digress. The entire point of this was people tend to be disrespectful and then not expect that disrespect back. And the only thing I'm going to say to that is I think people vastly mistake who I am and my capacity to be shady. Because I promise, if I were to return that same energy, you're going to fight me. There will be nothing else to say. You're just going to want to beat me up. And I can't fight, so I'm just going to keep my mouth quiet.